All right, it looks like we are live. So if you are present, if you're out there, can you give me a yes in the chat window so that I know that my audio is clear and my video is clear? That would be helpful. And a little bit of housekeeping. All right, Nicholas, you're back. Great. Thanks. Good to see you again. So a little bit of housekeeping before we jump in. Oh, I would love to know how to pronounce your name. I saw your email come in yesterday. Is it Liesel? Let's see. So a little bit of housekeeping and then we'll jump in. So as you know, great. As you know, you can put your questions in the chat window. I love hearing from you. I love your questions. I think the questions are what make it really informative and helpful for people because you come with real live challenges that are real world and not theoretical. So I think that makes for more valuable, better learning. Know that let's see. Know that I've got your email addresses. So if I say that I'll send you a PDF, know that I've got those from when you signed up. And if you want to watch the recording, it will be available shortly after we're done at the same URL. It just takes a few minutes to buffer and do those things, but it should be up and live pretty quick. And these are recorded at some point in November. I will likely bundle them and kind of put them together and sell them for a single price. So don't say anything incriminating, or if you just want to lurk in the background, that's totally fine. And this is meant to be casual, informal, so that you can feel like you can ask any questions that you want without concern. And that makes it much easier and much more flowy. So today we're talking about how to package up your services, which I think is a really useful way to shift your pricing, lift your pricing, and get your work with your clients in a much more less fewer roadblocks and speed bumps and potholes kind of way. It's much smoother, it's more streamlined, it's more effective, it's more efficient, and it's clear for both parties what's expected. So I think packaging services can be really useful, really beneficial for both parties. So what I would love to hear from you, just to kind of kick things off, is when it comes to packaging up, building your advisory services, what are your concerns? What are your challenges? Where do you get stuck? What keeps you from doing it? All those kinds of questions. So if you can pop answers to those questions in the chat, that would be really great. And I'll answer those as we go. So how do you build advisory services without getting killed on scope creep? Because scope creep is obviously a challenge. And too many offerings, it's complicated. Oh my gosh. Okay. So Liesel, what would be helpful for you today? Would it be helpful to know how to streamline your services, or how to have fewer of them? What do you think? What if you have a sense of what the solution might be? Let me know what that is. So we don't want you getting killed on scope creep. We don't want you overworking and really regretting the service that you've designed, packaged, and priced because it's way more work than you anticipated. And 6 months into it, or maybe even 6 weeks into it, you're thinking, oh my God, what have I done to myself? I never should have done this. So if you are up for it, if you can also share, if you're willing, and if you're not, that's totally fine. But if you're willing to share what you're sort of either, what do I want to know? The gross revenue of the clients that you work with, because then I can speak directly to the service offerings that I see CPAs building for clients at that level. So if you can, that's great. If not, that's totally fine. So how to build advisory services without getting killed on scope creep and without too many offerings. It's complicated. So let me see. Okay, Liesel, not sure if I can have fewer of them, but I can hand some of them off. Okay, I guess I need separate packages for the different service packages. Yeah, so tell me what you need. I need separate packages for the different service packages. You can dig into that. So, okay. If people are starting from scratch and haven't built any advisory services yet and are just doing things piecemeal and a client comes to you and they say, "Hey, I need this service or I need that service. I need accounts payable, payroll, bookkeeping. I need my, I need write." They're not going to say to you, "I need write up," because nobody knows to ask for that really, but I need month end bank rec and those kinds of things. And you're just like piecemealing it and putting together a la carte. Then you end up in the business of delivery. And that gets really challenging, and that's often how you get killed on that's a way to get killed on scope creep because clients are probably need more than we realize. Everything takes 25 to 40% longer than we realize. And if we're billing hourly, then we send out the bill, and of course it's 25% or 40% more than they anticipated, which most of the time they're not going to be happy about. So we end up in this situation where we're just delivering checklist services and billing by the hour, and it gets really difficult, right? It's like burdensome and clients are dissatisfied and it's hard to plan. It's hard to get things done on time. Things get lost in the workflow and so on. Jennifer says low six figures on up to 2 million. Okay, great. So I'm going to keep track of a bunch of thoughts that are going on or things that I want to come to. Okay. And I see, Lisa, your reply tax resolution. I'll come back to that in just a sec. So where I recommend starting if people are brand new to this is something like, if you're brand new and I would start with tax, like just your straight up tax service, and have one service that is basic and it is just the return and it doesn't include anything else. It's like, you get us your documents, we'll churn out your return, we'll let you know when it's ready, you come in, you pay for it, we give it to you. And then design a premium version of that, which is something like, this isn't advisory yet, but it's a starting point to kind of get you into advisory if you are not doing this already. So premium tax is like, you want your return done. Do you also want a mid-year meeting to make sure that your revenue, your estimate, your withholding, all that stuff is on track? Because maybe your revenue is way lower than we thought it was going to be, or maybe it's way higher than you expected. So we need to adjust your withholding, or you need to make sure you're setting aside more so that you're not getting surprised at the end of the year and April of the following year. So do you want a mid-year meeting? Do you want an end of the year meeting? So, because here's the premium service is 2 meetings a year, mid-year, end of year, and maybe there's audit insurance, and maybe there's call with quick questions. Anything under, like, if it's less than 15 minutes, you're not going to receive a bill for it. Anything beyond that, we'll have to, talk about what it is before we engage in another way, and we can have an upfront, like a meeting that's paid upfront to get away from billing by the hour. So you can include some other things in your basic tax service to make it premium, and it separates the two, right? And so your prospect comes in and they say, "Hey, can you do my taxes?" And you're like, "Yes, we can. If you want only your taxes done, it's $595. But if you want the premium service, which includes, you can call anytime with questions, a mid-year meeting, an end of year meeting to make sure there are no surprises. That's $1195. Which one do you prefer?" And they hopefully, in theory, say $1195, or they say $595, whichever one they want. And then now you have a clear package for just your super basic tax service, right? You've got a basic and a premium. So that's a stepping stone into advisory. So once you get that kind of nailed down, then you can do something like an advisory light service that is really great for your multi six figure and maybe 7-figure business owners. Your 7-figure business owners might want some more juice than advisory light, but 6-figure business owners who aren't ready and not going to spend 25, 35, 45, $55,000 a year with you yet, still want something more than just my return and a mid-year and an end of year meeting. They might want something more like, can we review my retirement situation and make sure that I'm not missing anything obvious? Should I be in a Roth IRA or regular IRA? Is there SEP or simple IRA? Should I be doing these things? How about health insurance? Should I be doing HDH, like a high deductible, whatever plan? Can you help me make sure that my health insurance is the right thing? And should I sign up for an HSA at my bank? Like, help me navigate the morass of all these complicated things that really aren't that complicated. But if you don't understand them and you're running a, multi six-figure business, you don't have time to navigate all of it. And when you run into a roadblock, it's like, you call your CPA, and then maybe it's like 5 days later, they get back to you. And anyways, they get lost, right? So if you can have something that is coming back a little bit higher level, if you can have something that is like making sure that if you can have an advisory light package at like $7,500 that includes, we'll go through your retirement, make sure you're doing all things right. We'll take a peek at your insurance and make sure you're adequately covered, that you're not missing anything obvious or there are no giant holes in your exposure, right? Making sure that you've got the right business insurance, you're properly licensed in the state, that you're not missing anything obvious that might be a real risk, and that health insurance, whatever is being dealt with, that you're making sure you've got all your deductibles, that you're not missing any of those. Something like that, and you meet perhaps quarterly. Now you're talking $7,500. And I didn't mention response time is for bronze end of the week, for silver within 2 days, and for gold it's like end of day or 24 hours or something like that. So you can vary the response time to build out bronze, silver, gold. Okay. So that's a really advisory light package that's good and commonplace for six-figure business owners to kind of get them started, get them above just getting the tax return done. It has the following benefits. It's good for your client in that they get more of their needs met when it comes to tax planning, tax strategy. It creates a way for them to make sure their questions are being answered without them being like, I don't want to pick up the phone because I have no idea how long this call is going to take. And I don't know if I'm going to get a bill for $95 or $425. So they don't call you at all. So they actually get the help they need. And if you're keeping an eye on things and they've got peace of mind that things are being handled, it's one less distraction for them. You may find ways that help them make more money. And when you help them make more money, their business grows, and then they kind of step up into your higher level services. It's good for you because it's more predictable income throughout the year, right? It smooths out your cash flow. It creates a way for your clients to contact you and get answers to questions that they need that might be really quick, like, hey, should I buy a car now or should I wait until 2022? What are the tax implications? Or, hey, I have this big stock sale. Can we talk about the gains? What should I do? It creates a way for them to call you and get the actual help they need so that they avoid expensive problems without them having to worry about the bill, and you getting compensated for the expertise that you bring to the table, and you don't have to worry about billing out for like 24 minutes. So it's really beneficial in those ways and more. It makes your client relationship much better. Excuse me. It makes your client relationship much better and smooths out a bunch of stuff. So that's advisory services light for the six-figure business owner. So let me spin through questions here, and then I'll come back to kind of the next level up. So Lisa says, tax resolution versus tax prep versus tax and income planning. I don't think this can be bundled easily. Yeah, bookkeeping and advisory is involved too. Okay. Yes. So what does that make me think? Because there are a bunch of things in there. There's tax prep, there's tax and income planning. I'm curious to know about the tax resolution and how that plays out. So the tax resolution sounds to me like a prospect comes to you and they're like, hey, I haven't paid my taxes in 5 years. I owe a bunch of money and a bunch of penalties and fees. And it's a total mess. There was a divorce in there and the splitting up of a house. And can you help me clean this up because I need to get this cleaned up? Right. So that if I'm reading you right, if that's the kind of thing that happens, that to me sounds like, okay. That to me sounds like some kind of flat rate project. And that sounds like a flat rate it sounds like a project, which sounds like flat rate. It would be weird to value price that. And okay. And so it sounds to me like, so I actually haven't gotten into pricing tax resolution work. So I'm speaking a little bit out of turn here. And if this is off base, then it's off base. And I'm always happy to learn new things about how to price things in the tax world. Just like cleaning up somebody's bookkeeping mess is typically like $2,500 to $3,000. So just flat rate it at $3,000 and be like, every year that we've got to clean up is $3,000. In the same way, it makes me wonder if tax resolution work can be flat rated based on a metric. I don't know what that metric is, but maybe it's per year of, tax that was avoided and not dealt with. Every year that you didn't pay or deal with your taxes is $5,000. I'm tossing a number out, and I'm tossing out the metric. But that's where my head is like, what is the metric that gets used to set a flat rate? So if that would work, so that would check the tax resolution box. The tax prep you could have with just the like the basic service, and then your premium service includes the tax and income planning that people can step up into. So I'm wondering if that would solve that for you. Give me some feedback on that one. Yeah. So, okay. So then you get into, so Lisa, I'm still going to go with your challenge here, bookkeeping and advice. Thank you. Many ideas. Yes. It's easy for me to come up with ideas. I can sometimes come up with too many. Let me know if I need to simplify it for you. So so this comes up a bunch, right? Because you're going to have clients who just want tax and don't want bookkeeping, right? So they've got a package. I'm going to sum this up. Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to sum up everything from what comes up and create some like high level simplified packages, put it in a PDF that might be a spreadsheet actually. But anyways, so that it's all organized, because there are a bunch of things in play here, right? So because you're going to have just tax resolution as one thing. This is for you, Liesel. Then you've got your tax prep people. Then you're going to have your tax prep and planning people, income and tax planning. And then you're going to have another thing that's going to have, if you want bookkeeping, plus the other things that we're talking about, right? And advisory, right? So you start to get into a lot of stuff. I see how it gets complicated. Okay, so here's what we can do with this. Oh, great. Good to know that ideas are good. Okay. It's helpful to kind of think outside the box sometimes about these things. Nicholas, I see your comment. Client revenue range 1 million and below. Okay, great. So we'll get into advisory, how to build advisory for those folks too. We'll do that next. So let's see. It's always helpful to come back to, what does this do and who is this for? So Lisa, I've got a column, 3 columns for your tax resolution, prep, income planning, and prep. And then if they want to step up into, okay, so I'm imagining I've got to write it again because I wrote it too wide. So you've got your tax resolution, your prep, and your income and tax planning. I'm not saying it right, I realize. But then you've got, why am I doing this wrong? I want to do it down the side. Give me a sec. Planning, bookkeeping, and advisory. So the tax planning folks, let's just pretend you're looking at 5,000 to 15,000 in that like order. We're just talking orders of magnitude. Bookkeeping, you're going to add on, that's a monthly service. And then advisory is another level of service. So what I'm seeing for you is 5 columns, right? And people can kind of a la carte the things that they want. But advisory needs to be defined. right? What gets included in advisory and what are you advising on? And how does it overlap with tax, with planning and prep and stuff? So we've got to figure out who that's for. And that will help define what advisory is. So, Lisa, who are some people? Insurance and Social Security planning. Yep, totally. So who is currently buying advisory from you? Are they business owners? And if obviously they're business owners, what level of revenue are they coming in at? So 6 figures, like mid to high 6 figures, 7 figures, like that. Mostly business owners, mid 6 figures. Okay. And do you have a niche? Are they in a niche? Like, are they in manufacturing, retail, online, professional services? If professional services, are they creatives and ad agencies, or are they like architects, engineers, and lawyers? Are they totally all over the map? Do you have churches and schools and government? What? That's obviously not business owners, but just to give you a sense. Real estate engineers and others all over the map. Okay. Okay. So what I would do in this case is great. Is I would take the real estate folks. Are the real estate folks investors or agents? Maybe a mix, but let me know. But I would design something. Oh, they're agents. Okay. We want investors. I want you to have investors because there's more going on revenue-wise for them. But anyways, let's go with, I'll take them. Great. There are plenty of them out there. Real estate is like so many people have real estate as a side hustle. So, okay, but for now, let's work with agents, right? And I'll take the engineers next. So what do real estate agents need when it comes to advisory? They probably need some amount of cash flow planning and scenario planning because their revenue is super volatile, right? They don't need a lot of sales, but they just need a few big sales. I'm not an expert in real estate agent, by the way, but I'm kind of making it a little bit making it up here, but I've also been around the block that it's hard for them to know what their income is going to be because, if a couple of big sales or a couple of not sales in either direction can swing the pendulum substantially. They're not like other business owners that may have more predictable revenue. So what do real estate agents who are in the mid 6 figures, what do they need when it comes to advisory? They might need, and feel free to help me out here, but they might need quarterly meetings to check in on their revenue to make sure, like I said, their withholdings are on track, that they're, that the cash flow in their business is supporting them in the way they need. And if it's not on track, how are they going to fix it? What's their, I think with real estate agents, there's you've got to market your real estate business, your real estate agent business, right? So what's your return on your marketing dollar? They have a certain metric, and I think Zillow has a certain metric about like how many eyeballs per $1,000 you spend or something. So I forget exactly what it is, but there's something like that. So how is theirs? What's their ad spend and how is it converting for them? How many phone calls is that turning into? Right? So you want to get in their minds about how you can help them think about their revenue and potentially improve it. And meeting 3 or 4 times a year to make sure that they're on track and the things that they can do to improve their revenue, especially if you have a bunch of real estate agents, noticing the patterns of what the successful ones are doing and teaching the lesser successful ones what the more successful ones are doing can be enormously valuable. So that's where my head goes with the real estate agents. I would build something, an advisory service that's designed for them. Don't try and build something that's designed for like all of your business owners across a bunch of revenue ranges. It'll be too complicated. It won't work. Quarterly meetings are forced. They want me to do everything for them, everything. Okay. Yeah. I want to know more about that. I want to know there's a lot of good stuff in there, but I want to keep going to the engineers. So for the engineers, I would say they probably have the engineers probably have big projects. So they probably have a bunch of, I'm imagining they're not getting paid in full up front. They're probably getting paid with some kind of deposit, and then they're getting paid as the work goes. So my hunch would be, although engineers are mathy people, so they might have a handle on it, but they might need your help. They could need help with cash flow, right? And forecasting out what their revenue is going to be and their capacity. When are they going to be working on projects? How busy are they going to be? This is maybe getting in a little bit of OpEx on their behalf, kind of in their suit, maybe more than is appropriate. But I'm thinking about, what does an engineer need from a CPA who's doing their books and so on, or maybe not, to make sure their business and their financials are on the rails. So, in fact, as I think of it, one of my clients, she's doing controller level service for an engineering firm. So I can find out what's kind of in that package, what she offered and how that was structured. So let me make a note. And I will see what I can find, and I'll include it in whatever PDF that I post at the end of this. And actually what I'll do is I'll put it all on a page on my website. So you'll have the URL. You can just, all the information will be there. It's easier. Okay. All right. Yeah, okay. This is a great thing, being secretaries. From a business owner standpoint, from a CPA as business owner standpoint, we want to get you out of being bossed around. If you ever feel like you're being pushed around by your clients, that's an indication that we need to set up services that are high value and higher price tag, so that you don't feel like you're the secretary and just getting like, hello, can I take your order, please? You want to get out of that dynamic. And the way out of the dynamic is to become more expert in something more specific, so that they're coming to you for expertise and guidance and strategy, and not, hey, will you do this for me? And that's one of the many benefits of niching, which I think is next Wednesday. So definitely, if you feel like you're ever getting pushed around by clients, definitely come to that one, because niching is so helpful in countless ways. All right, let me regroup and get back to Nicholas. So let me ask Liesel, tell me what's helpful so far. Like, do you have more questions? Are you stuck anywhere? And I can come back to you. I want to talk about advisory services for clients in the 500,000 to kind of early million range, because I just did early six figures, right? Early six figures, ballpark, talking orders of magnitude, 5,000 to 15,000 for something advisory-ish. When you get into business owners in the high six figures and early seven figures, let's just say like 7 million, maybe up to, 7 million, a million, maybe up to 2 million, just depending on the business, right? Construction has a lot of money pass right through the top. Those are big numbers, but it might not be a big business necessarily. So at those levels, at this level, 500,000 to a million, and maybe on up to 2 million, clients are looking for a lot more guidance when it comes especially to cash flow and scenario planning, because where their heads are is in, they've got a lot of money coming through the business. They're not a solo shop anymore, right? But they're also, as a business owner, like letting go of the idea that they're the one who does all the work. And this is sort of like classic E-Myth stuff, that up until about 200,000, 400,000, you can kind of be a solo shop. It can be you and an assistant, you and a VA. You can be a small person. You can have your hands on everything that happens in the business. But at 400,000, you start to need staff if you're going to go above, if you're going to get above 400,000. These are rough numbers here. So now the business owner has hired staff, but they still really want to be working in the business because they like being in the business. That's why they got started in the first place. The carpenter who's gone out on his own still wants to swing a hammer and wear his tool bags. But what he needs to be doing is higher level management of the business. And yet he has trouble kind of fully stepping into the management shoes. And what he needs to be thinking about is how do I think about hiring more staff, and what does that even look like financially? This is a sort of a really common problem that I'm just picking on because it's a straightforward one. It's common, it's well known. So he needs cash flow and he needs scenario planning of like, what if business is up by 20%? What if it's down by 20%? If it's up by 20%, how much can I afford to hire? Or how much do I need to be making to be able to afford a third staff member? Those kinds of questions are common in this space. And they're also coming out of, I don't want to call it like being a beginner business owner where they're just bootstrapping everything. And there's money that moves from personal accounts to business accounts and like it's kind of messy. That's up to $250,000 where they're like beginner business owner and everything's messy. And then they get up over $500,000 and they're like, I got to be more official. I got to clean things up. I got to be above board and do things the official way and kind of grow into adult business, if you will. And what was I going to say? So they start to need things. They start to get serious about like bootstrapping it and kind of running out of cash or being too close to the edge of running out of cash every month is too risky for them now. They don't want to do that anymore. And they realize they need things like setting aside 10% cash in their emergency fund. But they need somebody to kind of hold their hand to help them do that, right? Because they're not going to do it on their own if they haven't done it already. So they need somebody who's like, okay, let's set a goal to get you to 10% cash in your emergency fund by the end of the year. And here's how much that looks like every single month, setting this much aside. And here's the account. And I'm not going to let you touch it unless it really hits the fan. That would be something that a business owner in the $500,000 to $1 million range is kind of prime for. So think along the lines of, back to who is it, what does it do, and who's it for? So the advisory service for the business owner at $500,000 to $1 million is like all the tax prep, the planning, quarterly meetings to make sure you're on track, make sure all the withholding is happening right, quarterly estimates are getting paid right, they're on track, they've got the money set aside, there are going to be no surprises at tax time. In addition to the managing cash flow, setting aside an emergency fund, scenario planning. And now you're looking at something like, depending on your market, depending on your people, but now you're into like easily $25,000, maybe $50,000. Some people think of this like fractional controller. That's fine for common parlance. I hesitate to use those terms because I think they put the CPA in too much of a box for relative to what the business owner needs. And I help my clients think through what the business owner needs and who cares if it fits inside the controller label or not, right? We don't want to be limited by the controller label. But I also understand that in the industry, it's something that's broadly understood. So that's why I use the term. Okay. How are you guys doing? What questions do you have? What's helpful? What's landing? And what questions do you still have? Because I can go until the top of the hour, but I don't have to if people don't have questions. Okay, stuck on. I was going to say, I'll come to this one, stuck on the idea of niching. So maybe I need that webinar too. Yeah, okay, so let me come back. I'll talk about niching in a second. Because I was going to say something about low six figures to 2 million. Okay. So let's talk about having a big spread in your client base, low six figures to 2 million. You basically have some business owners. So Jennifer, this is for you. Some business owners, and this is great. I'm glad you brought this up. Some of your business owners are almost 20 times as big, Your biggest business owner is almost 20 times as big as your smallest business owner in terms of revenue. That's a big spread, right? So let's talk about how the challenge with this is that when you have clients spread out over a big revenue range and you're the only one, that means that you're trying to understand clients at probably like 3 different phases of business growth, right? Early 6 figures is solo shop, and they're now, hopefully, they've now proven that that their business is viable and they're not gonna shutter their doors, right? That they can make it viable. Whereas the business owner at $25,000, you're like, that's not fully proven yet. But at $100,000, the proof of concept is there. But they're still very much like solo shop doing it all themselves. So, but they're trying to get to a place where they're thinking to themselves, okay, at 250, like I said, they're like, now I can't grow anymore without hiring. So that's that problem. Then they hire, and now they're in this new phase of, how do I maintain my profitability? Because now I'm paying this business owner more than I'm paying myself. So that's that phase. They've got to figure out how to maintain their profitability as they hire. And that happens typically somewhere in the 250 to 500,000 range. Then you get up to like 750, and now they've hired maybe 2 or 3 or 4 people, and they're thinking to themselves, okay, now I have a full team. How do I scale and go from kind of one-to-one service to one to many, 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 right? Like, how do I serve more people with digital products, info products, stuff like that? How do I scale this business up into the millions, reaching a new level of scale? And then at the 2 million, now you've got the $2 million problems. So in your range for you, Jennifer, of early 6 figures to 2 million, you've got business owners with 4 different sets of problems potentially. So that's a lot of advisory services. That's a lot of service lines to track. So what I would suggest to you, if I'm allowed to give you advice from here without you asking for it, but I think it's kind of presumed, is to try and focus on, over time, where you like to be the most. And there's no right or wrong answer because it's your business. You get to decide. Many options are viable. Do you like the $2 million business owners the best and their problems the best? Do you like the $1 million business owners and their problems the best? Do you like the $500,000 business owners and their problems the best? Or do you like the early 6-figure business owners and their problems the best? With the asterisk that the early 6-figure business owners, the pricing is the hardest to pencil. But once you get above $500,000 in revenue, it makes the pricing much, much easier for it to be worth it to you. So I would ask yourself that question: which bucket do I like to work with? Which bucket and their problems do I like to work with best? And focus in that direction and try and narrow over time the breadth of revenue that your clients exist in, so that the breadth of revenue. So the range of revenue, gross revenue that your clients exist in is as narrow as possible. And that'll make it much easier for you to trim down your service lines and optimize them. And then you can have 10 clients or 20 clients who are all in the same narrow band of services. You'll have fewer service lines to manage. You'll have fewer things to track. And you'll become much better, much more expert in that narrow band, right? I think of it like the front cog on a bicycle, that clients come to you at a certain set of pain points. You pick them up, you travel them a certain distance, and then you drop them off, and they're ready for the next level of CPA or firm above you or something like that. And the time that clients spend with you is not perpetuity. It is like 2, 3, 4 years. You move them through your process and you get them to a certain place and you hand them off to the next person that they need. So those are my thoughts on revenue range and simplifying the whole stack of services you have, because otherwise it's crazy making if you've got too much going on. Okay, let me catch up on the conversation. Brilliant thoughts. Thank you. Oh, great. Thanks. It's always good to hear. They need verification of the work they already did. Okay. Oh, stuck on the idea of niching, and Jennifer Bright. Some of the higher grossing aren't making that much money because of the high cost of goods sold. Yes. Okay. Right. So just because they have higher revenue doesn't make their business more profitable. And that could be a pain point, that something that you address, right? How do you maintain high profitability when you have high cost of goods sold? It's not just the top line. So helping, if you liked those people and you felt like you could meaningfully move the needle in terms of profitability or margins at that level, it could still be really viable for you. So it's a matter of knowing your clients and the space, the industry, the profession that you're dealing with, and what's possible. How big of a difference you can help make for them. Because the bigger the difference you can help them make, the more you can lift your prices. The more valuable it is, the more you can lift your prices. Okay, not quite quarter of. Stuck on the idea of niching. Okay, so I'm definitely doing a whole thing on niching sometime next week, but I'm happy to talk a little bit about it now. Tell me, what is the stuck part for you when it comes to niching, and I'll see what I can do. And I'll just scan the chat to see if there's anything that I might have overlooked. So I think I got the too complicated, too many offerings. Pare down who you work with so you can simplify your stack, your offering stack, and get more people who want to be right in that stack. Too many lines of business. So do I sell them or hire others to handle them? Ooh, great question. Great question. Not sure if I can answer that without a conversation, but maybe I can help you think about how to think about it. I think the question for you is, what kind of business do you want to have, right? Do you want to have a business with lots of employees where lots of people are doing work for you and in theory helping you make more money? More employees come with more challenges, more things to deal with, more headaches. Not always, if you're a masterful manager, but becoming a masterful manager is like a whole career unto itself. So it's tough, right? I'll say this at the risk of sounding discouraging. The biggest complaint among business owners, the one that sits at the top, is staff. It's always the biggest complaint. Staff, 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 staff. So if you're really good with staff, that might not be a challenge for you. But most business owners cite that as their number one challenge. So it's worth considering. So anyways, where was I going with that? It depends on what kind of business you want. Do you want to have do you want to keep your business and service lines and hire staff and create systems and smooth things out that way so your staff are helping you be profitable at the risk of having staff-related headaches or challenges? Or do you want to have a more simple business that has fewer staff and give up your service lines and find a way to be profitable at the level that you want to be profitable while maintaining a sort of lighter footprint business? Both paths are viable. It's just a matter of determining what you want for a business, because you can create a business that's viable in whatever vision suits you. If you're a CPA, there's value out there to be created. It's taken years, and I agree, still problematic with employees. Yeah. So be careful of sunk costs, right? You've spent the money, you've spent the time, but that's gone now. So the question is now, here's where I am. Holding on to the past simply because you invested in creating it this might be discouraging, but insufficient reason in my mind to carry it forward just because you already spent it. It's like, it's gone. I learned a ton. That was a great experience. I'm glad I know everything I know. And what I want in the future is this, and I'm not going to hang on to this thing that I created simply because I invested a bunch of time in it. I've talked to plenty of business owners who have done things, invested lots of money and time in things that they said they ended up hanging on to for longer than they wish they had, because they felt some sense of internal obligation because they'd put so much time into it, and they wish they had let it go earlier. So I'm just passing that along. I hope that's not too difficult to hear. It can be difficult when I'm not actually talking to you and reading your body language and your response. Okay. Nicholas says, yeah, I mean, you have to capitalize on the knowledge that you've built. Okay. I need my reading glasses. Yesterday, we spoke about selling services to new clients. How do you sell these new packages to existing clients if you've already been providing them some of the services to them? Nicholas, have you been providing those services to them kind of for free? So I'm gonna kind of assume yes. Okay. So I think your best bet for now, how do you sell them to existing clients? Let me ask you first, are you selling them to new clients yet? Because if you're not selling them to new clients yet, not yet. Okay, let me think about this answer. If you've been giving them the service, for providing some of the service to them for free. So what I would do is build a package that includes some of the service that you've been giving to them for free, but also things that they're not getting yet, that they might value and want and buy, and offer. I kind of feel like I need to talk it through with you, but I would see if I could build a service that includes some of the stuff that they've been getting for free, but also stuff they haven't been getting yet, and offer them that and see if they want to step up into it. It is tricky. This is the hard part about this transition is I've trained clients to expect certain things for free or at a low price. Now what? There's no doubt that it's tricky to manage. So that would be my best suggestion, is to take the ones, like I said, I'm going to be redundant. Take your existing clients who have been getting the stuff for free, add new services to it, and see if they will step up into it. And then if not, over time, you may have to let me do this first, then go out and offer it to new clients, new prospects. Offer your advisory services, your new packages to new people, get them in, build that out. And then over time, if your existing clients do not want to step up, you might, like I said yesterday, the example of like when Microsoft stops supporting XP, like that, you say, we're phasing out XP. We're phasing out this service at the end of whatever day, end of 2022. We won't be offering this anymore. And they can make a decision whether to go or stay. And your job is to kind of gauge at what point you fold that conversation in the growth of your business, and how much you want to keep the client or how much you're okay letting them go and transition off. And only you can know that. But I would say give that process time to play out. Go get new clients. Bring them in so you feel comfortable letting the ones go who do not want to take you up on your higher level services, and slowly ratchet up. Okay, 11:49. If there are more questions, I'll take them. Otherwise, I will head in the direction of wrapping up. And the wrap up is basically, there are 5 of these. There are 5 more next week. So I hope you'll look at what's on the list. There's some good stuff coming up. Sign up if you want to, if it seems like it'll be helpful. The URL for this is the same URL if you want to catch the replay, if you came on late. And I will make a webpage that you can go visit with a summary of highlights and things that I kind of mentioned along the way. And if you would drop one takeaway or one aha or like light bulb, something that clicked while in the last hour and just put it in the chat. That would be really helpful because then that helps me track what is clicking for people and it helps inform new content that I come out with. So if you can do that before you jump off, that would be really helpful. And you can also do it like I'll hit end broadcast, but I think you can still throw your takeaways, your ahas in the chat. And I know that I appreciate those. So hope this was helpful. It's always great to be with you all and get some real-time questions. I hope that you're able to implement some of these things. And of course, I hope that you get some rest and have a great weekend. All right, everyone, take care.